G'day lads, it's Lyle and the Chicken again, and today we're doing another how-to on this G37, which all the other videos will be right here in the cards. Anyway, today we're making a custom axle so that we can have camber. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is have the car drilled open so that you can get to the base. The base is the important bit for this. We'll need the body, but that can sit aside for the moment. With the base, you're going to want to remove the wheels. Just get a screwdriver here. Now there are two ways to do this. You can chop off these little supports, but I tend to try and peel them back by prying it with the screwdriver. And so, see there, I'm using it. I twist the screwdriver a bit to try and make a gap for that wheel to pop out. And if you do this correctly, it means that you can reuse these supports if you want to just put wheels back in on a stock axle. So you pry that open, and out comes the wheel. Then you got to do it to the other end. Now that we've got the wheels removed, we can take our axles, well, our current axles, and it's time to oddly chop them right in half, because that's just what you have to do. So you get a pair of bolt cutters or wire cutters. I think these are wire cutters, and try and match it up roughly to the middle. And what I like to do is cover it all so no bits go flying anywhere. Then you chop it, and you end up with one wheel to half an axle, which is exactly what you want. So do this to both axles now. Now that we've got the axles cut, it comes time to deciding on whether to make it with camber. And if you do want to make it with camber, there are two ways. The first way is for the more little to mild camber, and that is, if you get the axle, you put it in a set of pliers about a wheel's length out, so about there-ish. That's a wheel's length out. And then you would get another set of pliers, such as these, and you would come along, grab hold of it and bend it. So that is for little to mild camber. If you want larger amounts of camber, it means that you won't be able to get the wheel on. So you need to put the wheel on the half axle, then position it in your pliers, either like that or like this, and try and get it so that all of the axle is poking out. And now you can actually bend the axle to your desired amount just with your fingers using the wheel. Once you get there, as you can see, it's a lot of camber there. Once you get there, the axle's done. You'll take it off, do another one, and then it will come time for custom axles. Now I would like to quickly point out that when you're putting camber on the cars, I would work in sets of the front wheels and the rear wheels, and once you apply camber, keep those wheels and axle bits separate, because you don't want to get them mixed up. Alright, so now it's time to make the axle, and for this we'll be using this type of rod. So you can get this brass. I just got a little aluminum because it was cheaper at the time, because, you know, good sales, but it's 1/16 by 0.014. Really what I tend to do is just go onto eBay, search up K&S, and then go 8100, and that will come up with all this type, which is the 3-piece 12-inch long sets of these. But really, if you want to get different lengths or different amounts, then you just search up that sort of stuff there. So I hope that's enough information for you. Okay, so for this bit, you're going to want the body of your car, and you're going to want the base of your car, and put the body and the base together, because your aluminum tube needs to ultimately go out far enough that then if you put a wheel on either end, it will stick to the correct amount of fitment that you want. I then proceed to mark where I want to cut the axle with a permanent marker. I leave a bit of extra space at each marking, just in case something goes wrong when I cut the axle. Now when it comes to cutting this rod, there are two main options. The first option is the easiest, that is to get a Dremel with a cut-off wheel, and you just use the cut-off wheel and you'll come over here and you'll cut it. The second option is to get bolt cutters or wire cutters. I think these are wire cutters. You cut the bit there, and then you have to sand it down. And this sandpaper is 120 grit, by the way, just if you're wondering. It's pretty coarse. So I'll show you both ways now. Okay, so to cut, we'll get our wire cutters here, line it up with the marking. Now this does tend to fly, so I tend to point it down at the table, hold the other end, chop it off. And then, as we can see here, the end that was already good is still good. This end here is all squashed in. To fix this being squashed in, get some coarse sort of sandpaper. Just get this, you can hold it with pliers if you want, just be careful not to squash it. And you just sand back and forth for a very long time. Well, not very long, but just check it every now and then. And after you sand a little bit, what I like to do is get a pin and just poke in any of the excess material, just to make sure you sand it right. Okay, so I've been sanding for a little bit now, so just to make sure that I've done enough, get an axle, and I'll poke it in there. If it fits, oh good. If it doesn't fit, then you got to do more sanding. I'll show you the Dremel way now. But as always, when you use the Dremel, you need to protect your eyes and any other bit of the body that you want to protect, so I would recommend using safety glasses in case some of that gets in your eyes. Okay, so with your Dremel, you may have noticed I've changed the attachment to an easy lock one here, just because that's easier. Anyway, with your Dremel you want to get a wheel on it. I set it to about 10,000 RPM. Then you want to get some pliers, put your axle in there up to the amount there, and you just want to make sure you've got a bit of extra space, it's nice and firm, that you can see it. And then you want to cut just behind that little red mark, because this will usually cut away a fair bit. So I prefer just to cut just a little bit behind there, just so you have a bit of extra space in case you need it. So we'll go ahead and do that now. There you go. It's really hot, that's why I'm using pliers. But yeah, now you just get some sandpaper and you clean that up, or using sanding wheel on the Dremel, and you'll be good. Alright, now that you've cut your axles, you can put the wheels in just as a test fit and see what sort of camber angles you're getting. See if it's all looking good. You can even put the body over it and see if you like the look of it. And this is really just to make sure everything's all good before we permanently fix our axles into that next sort of stage. Alright, so now that you've finalised your axles, it's time to permanently make them this way. So there are two options for this. First option is super glue. Now there is a risk with super glue that you might seize up the wheels and make them stop spinning, which is okay for some people. Second option is to clamp them really tight so the axles can't come out. But there are a couple times when you don't clamp it hard enough and the axles do come out. I personally prefer this, so I'm going to show you this way. Alright, so to clamp them, what I like to do is get the wheels and you hold them right by the tops. Then you get a pin or another piece of axle. You poke down the axle just to make sure that there's no excess popping out. Sorry, couldn't really see that. Then we get this big old clamp thing. We approach from the bottom because that's the easiest usually. Just sort of get it on there. Then you clamp really tight while holding the wheels in their same position. You just want to hold it there for a bit, then move over to the other wheel while keeping it all in exactly the same position. You clamp it really tight. So once that's done, the axle finds it a lot harder to pop out, and you have a custom axle made. So you do this for the other wheels, and then we can get to popping it on the actual car. Okay, so now to fit the wheels onto the base, you may have noticed that it doesn't perfectly fit in there. So to solve this, what we're going to do is really just start hacking away at anything that is unnecessary. Try and use the smallest file possible. Sometimes even just use a knife just to cut in here, just to get that out. And if that doesn't make your wheels sit deep enough for the camber that you've added, then you just need to hack away at it. Just want to point out that if you're having a lowered car with a lot of camber, you also need to file away any of these sort of lumps or anything on the undercarriage which would cause scraping, because you don't want that if you want it to roll. Okay, so I've been filing for a bit here. Just been filing away. I've obviously had to file away, and I ended up using this circular small file for a lot of it. So that's been more helpful just because it's got files all around, it just files faster. Got a little tip for you though. If you've got all the plastic around this, you don't want to keep it there, get a toothbrush and you just brush it away and all the plastic comes off. You don't have it there. So there's plastic inside here, I'll just brush it and loosens it up. You can get it on the table, then you can vacuum that up. But I know that this is ready because when I sit the wheels on there, and then I put the body over the top of that and I clip it into place, the wheels can sit comfortably and they can roll. They're not rubbing against anything, and this is fully engaged. It's time to glue them. Alright, so now that it's all ready to go, we can mock it up using some blue tack here. So I just got that just to make sure it all rolls smoothly. You can get the car body and you can pair them, and you can make sure that it's going to work, which this one doesn't, as you can see there. Still needs a little bit of work on it. That's just what I was doing at the moment. If you really wanted to and you're not going to use it to roll, you can just stop at this step and glue it from here. And if you want to make it all reversible, you just keep the blue tack in there and put the car back together. Okay, so I've just decided just to go with how it is at the moment, because I'm not actually going to really use it to roll, I don't think. It's more of a demonstration video. If you want it to roll, you can get there just by fiddling around and finding the right combination. Anyway, the next step is to mock up the car. I mock up the wheels using blue tack, with a main post as the main support so that I can tilt the car in all directions. Then I remove the blue tack that is directly around the wheels, as this is where I will glue the axle to the base. So to mock up the wheels, I'm just going to get two small pieces of blue tack, and I'll pick up the axle, right? So I'll have the axle on the ground. You pick up it at its finest points and you squeeze it together sort of, and you roll the axle around. This makes sure that the camber is, or the most inward part of the camber is at the top of your fingers. Then you get your blue tack and you can put it at the lowest contact point, like that, and then you can come over here and press it into place there, and then adjust the base to suit the axle, really. Then you can go do it to the other axle, wherever it's gone. There. Okay, so now that you've got it mocked up, there are some checks you need to do. The first one is you need to get down and make sure that the car is level this way. So like that sort of way, it's level there. You also want to make sure it's level this way, and that the wheels are level to the wheels this way, so that both of the ends are touching against the axles. Make sure it's level like that. And then get the car if you want and sort of just sit it on top to make sure that the wheels are going to go into the wheel arches. Once you've got it all mocked up, you have two options for glue. Firstly, which is my favourite, you can use super glue. The benefits to this is that it's really fast drying, so you don't have to be sitting here for long making sure it's all going okay. 2, it's really strong, and 3, it's easy and it's sort of just here, you know, it's like the quickest option. Secondly, you can use a hot glue gun. The benefits to a hot glue gun are that you can do it and then you can adjust it while it's there, like in its glue stage, and wait for it to dry. But the problems with the hot glue gun is that it takes a long time to set up, and you gotta be a skilled hot gluer to do it. So I'm gonna use super glue. When you're working with super glue, if you're scared or if you're unexperienced with it, you should probably wear gloves, like latex gloves or that sort of thing, because you don't want to stick any of your fingers together, because it's really annoying, so be careful about that. Okay, so I've literally got the super glue, just going to undo it, and I'll just let you see how much I'm putting in here. Do the front first. You do need a fair bit, and I'll do the rear now. It's about 3-ish drops. And then once you do your 3, wipe off the end of the super glue thing, screw it back together, and just wait. Now if you get something wrong while you're super gluing, just stop super gluing and pull the axle off of the base, because then you can always file down the base again, or the axle, whatever's needed. And if you get something wrong after super gluing, because we're only doing about 3-ish drops, you can usually pull it apart with bare strength, but that will probably damage your axle, so you'll have to remake it all. But in a way, it's reversible. Okay, so to test if the glue has dried, just get something like a toothpick, or something that you can poke it with which isn't your hands. Just poke around at the glue and see if it's gooey or if it's dry. And for me, it's dry, which means that now I can carefully sort of wriggle the car out of its blue tack hold. Now you can see if you've got any mistakes, which for me is this one wheel here. I must have accidentally got a bit of super glue in that, so now it's really stiff. But it'll do, because I'm not going to roll the car around too much. You can put the body on the car now, and you can see how hella flush it looks. And now it's just to make sure that all the other pieces fit in. Alright, so if you take your car apart now, also just a quick tip, if stuff doesn't really roll right when it's got the car attached, it means that it might be scraping against the wheel arches, in which case, if you want to, you can go to Dremel with the little sphere cutter thing, or whatever it is, ball cutter, and you can just run around the inside of the guard to make a bit more space for it. So I've done a little bit there, a little bit on the other one, and I'm just going to go around and do that all later. But for the time being, I've got to show you something else, which is these little bits. Every now and then, if you come across a car where they don't work anymore. So to find out if they work, put it into place, make sure that none of the wheels are scraping on any of the interior parts. Put the windscreen in place, and then put the body on top. And if it all clicks together well, it means that you have a good car. If it doesn't, it means something's wrong, but luckily for me, it all clips together well, so I must be lucky. Got a good car. If your car doesn't clip together well, it will probably be these bits here, which you can either just get some cutters and just cut the whole section out, or you can file that in to make it nicer. Okay, so here's the final result.
Let's go. Camber gang, camber gang, camber gang, camber gang, camber gang, camber gang, camber gang. I'm a goddamn hustler. Dumb. I just broke my front bumper. Dumb. I'm stuck on a speed bump. Yeah. My ride looks like a trash can. Dumb. I'd rather drive a minivan. Yeah. Camber gang, camber gang, camber gang. Dumb. Camber gang, camber gang, camber gang, camber gang, camber gang.
I hope this video has helped you. I hope it hasn't been too long. There will be more videos to come with this. Still going to do a lip and a wang. So, or a wing, however you want to say it. Wang gang Jeff, anyway. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'm the Lonely Chicken. Bye bye.
It's the Lonely Chicken.